I want to show you how you can optimize your document for web-based work. When you create a new Illustrator document, the very first thing that you're going to be confronted with is the New Document window. This is going to ask you a bunch of questions. The important thing here is that you know what you're designing for. Are you designing a web page or a poster? Is your design going to be viewed mostly online or in printed form? In this case, we're going to be focusing on the web. Because Illustrator doesn't have the ability to create elastic layouts in terms of responsive design, it helps to make sure that you think in terms of general sizes, rather than actually targeting a specific size. You won't know what this design is actually going to look like or behave like when you get it into a browser, since the browser can be different width. So locking yourself into a physical pixel dimension can be a little bit frustrating. In Illustrator, you do have some tabs that are going to offer you presets that are specific to mobile and web sizes. If you go to mobile and click View All Presets, it's going to give you quite a few small screen sizes to choose from. If you go to the web-based layout and click View All Presets, this is going to focus on more tablet and desktop sizes. Once you pick a size, you can come over here to the right and you can refine the settings. It is possible to actually plug in your own width and height settings here as well, so don't feel like you have to be married to the choices that Illustrator gives you. Once you specify the size, you're going to want to make sure that you're working in pixels. For the web, we always work in the units of measurement of pixels. You can also specify the number of artboards. We'll just be working with one artboard here, but it's really handy to have the option to be able to work on multiple artboards. It is worth noting that if you do create multiple artboards, the artboards that you create are going to be based on the exact size specifications that you've plugged in. I'll show you later how you can create artboards that are different sizes. We don't have to worry about the bleed, so we'll skip that option, and I'm going to scroll down to the advanced options. You always want to work in RGB color when you're working on the web because that's how the artwork is going to be displayed on screens. You'll also want your settings to be at 72 ppi. Again, screen resolution is going to display artwork at 72 ppi. And for the preview mode, I recommend that you select the pixel preview mode. When you set the preview mode to pixel and you zoom into the artwork, you're going to see pixels rather than smooth vector shapes. Let me show you what this looks like. Here I have my document. I'm just going to get a rectangle tool. And before I create this, I'm going to go into View, and I'm going to actually uncheck Snap to Pixel because I want to show you something else that happens in Illustrator. I'm going to draw the object, and I'll just release my mouse. And as you can see, when we zoom in on the object, we're not going to just see a straight 1 pixel black stroke. What we actually see is something that looks like a 2 pixel, sometimes black and sometimes different shades of gray stroke. What's happening here is that Illustrator is displaying this as the browser would actually see the artwork. If I go up to View and I uncheck the pixel preview mode, you're going to see that the artwork is going to snap into the smooth vector shapes that you're probably more familiar with when working with Illustrator. I do recommend that you keep the pixel preview checked when you're doing web work because this is going to give you a more accurate view of how the artwork is going to look on the web. This is going to also relate to the size of the artwork and how it's placed in conjunction with the grid. Currently, if I select on my shape, you'll notice that the width and the height are not set to whole numbers. This is something you want to avoid. Whenever you're creating artwork for the web, it's best if you work with whole numbers instead of decimal-based values. So I'm going to change the width to 451, and I'm going to change my height to 226. When I do this, you can see that the rendering of my shape has already improved. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that our artwork is aligned to the pixel grid. To do that, I'm going to right-click on the shape, and I'm going to choose Make Pixel Perfect. This is going to force the object to align right to the pixel grid. Now, if you go into the View menu and you turn on Snap to Pixel, you're going to avoid this issue. So again, I recommend that you work with Snap to Pixel checked, since you're not going to have that problem of the shape sitting partially on or partially off the grid. The reason that you want to have objects aligned to the pixel grid is because when we convert the artwork to square pixels for the web, we might end up with some semi-transparent pixels at the edge of the object or shape, as you saw earlier. If you're not aware of how things work here, this is a quick explanation. One pixel can only have one color or one level of transparency at any given time. All pixels are identical and they have the exact same size. Illustrator allows us to draw the shape anywhere with any size, and that can result in a shape boundary that falls on the middle of a pixel and not aligned to the grid. So always pay attention to the shape dimensions and don't draw shapes that have a percent-based dimension. And also make sure that you're aligning your objects to the grid. In regards to the setup for the web, I like to work in the web-based workspace instead of the essential-based workspace. When I switch to the web-based workspace, some additional panels are going to open, and these are panels that I might likely want to use when doing things for the web. So we'll be working in the web workspace as opposed to the essential-based workspace. It is possible for you to customize your workspace. You can grab the tabs and drag them to a new location, or you could close tabs if you find that you're not using them very often. If you wanted to include a panel that isn't shown, go to the Window pane and select the panel and then position it where you want it to be. And of course, if you want to get back to any of the saved workspaces, just go to Reset, and I'll choose Reset Web in this case, to reset my web-based workspace. So now I'm ready to start working on the web since Illustrator's set up and we understand the document settings that we should use for web-based work.